you on a dark or empty path seeking answers? Watch this video exposing the dark lies, deceiving many to the truth.
Messiah in the Passover. We're going to first look at the Passover background. We're going to look tonight at a lot of history about the Passover, what the original Hebrew Israelites did for the Passover. Let's look at the background first. What was the Old Testament origins of the Passover? The Passover is an Old Testament feast that celebrates the remembers Elohim's liberation of Israel from Egypt. After Joseph saved Egypt from starvation, the Israelites lived in Egypt as guests, which you can find in Genesis chapter 41. So Joseph had saved Egypt. He was the second in command in Egypt, and he actually saved Egypt from starvation. He told the king of Egypt what to do so that they didn't starve to death. Eventually, the Egyptians had forgotten about Joseph and enslaved the Israelites for hundreds of years. We can find that in Exodus chapter 1, verses 6 through 14.
And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. And the children of Israel were fruitful, and increased abundantly, and multiplied, and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply. And it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also themselves unto our enemies, and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasured cities, Phihon and Ramesses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made of the children of Israel to serve with rigor. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage in mortar and in brick and in all manner of service in the field. And all their service wherewith they made them serve was with vigor.
Okay, so what's going on here? Okay, Joseph and all that generation had died, and there was a new king, a leader in Egypt, and he did not know Joseph, and he saw that the Israelites were very prosperous, very numerous, and did not want them to come and conquer Egypt. So they put them into slavery. And when this happened, they were, it says in the scriptures that the Israelites were under hard bondage. Overburdened with work and mistreatment, the Israelites suffered a great deal, and they called out to Yahweh. So after all the years of bondage, they were in bondage, 400 years I believe it was, and they were under hard bondage, and they called out to Yahweh to deliver them, and he did. Yahweh responded to their cry and raised a great leader, Moses, who challenged the Pharaoh and Egypt's power. The book of Exodus explains how Yahweh freed his people from Egypt. Because of the hardness of Pharaoh's heart, Yahweh punished Egypt with 10 plagues. And you can see that in Exodus chapter 7 through 11. Instead of recognizing the true Elohim of heaven and earth, the Pharaoh grew angrier and pressed the Israelites even more. One way Pharaoh increased the Israelites' suffering was to refusing to give them straw, one of the key materials to produce bricks. However, Yahweh would not be denied. As the plagues continued, the suffering shifted from the Israelites to the Egyptians. The nation paid dearly for Pharaoh's stubbornness. During the last plague, Yahweh killed all the firstborn born in the land of Egypt, including Pharaoh's own firstborn. Yahweh gave his people a way to escape the destruction. The blood of a perfect lamb could take the place of the firstborn in the family. Yahweh gave Moses specific instructions to follow that night, that Yahweh's punishment passed over the Israelite home. And you can see that in Exodus chapter 12. They were to sacrifice a perfect lamb and mark their door frames, make unleavened bread, and gather bitter herbs. This is all symbolic. The Israelites ate this meal standing up, ready to leave Egypt at any moment. They wanted to leave in haste. They were preparing to leave in haste if they had to. Just to go, go, go. The feast was to be repeated throughout the generations as a memorial forever. This wasn't a one-time feast. It was to be memorialized forever. How long is forever? Until Messiah comes back. Throughout all the generations. The celebration is now called Passover. It's also in the Hebrew, it's called Pesach. Because Yahweh passed over the homes marked with the lamb's blood. Pesach, pass over, which is exactly what Messiah did. What Yahweh did. The seder, the word seder, you might hear this word in a Jewish content situation where there's a seder. And we're going to look at an actual seder, pictures of an actual seder in a few minutes. A seder means set order. The procedure or agenda for the celebration of Pesach. Messiah's Supper. Let's look at Messiah's Supper. The Passover was a celebration, remembrance, thanksgiving, and participation in Yahweh's mighty acts of salvation for his people. Yahweh's Supper functions in similar ways for believers today. We have a Passover dinner. We have celebration, remembrance, and thanksgiving for Yahweh saving us, or saving our hearts, saving our soul from going to hell. A time of remembrance and thanksgiving. Luke chapter 22, verse 19.
Messiah took bread and gave thanks, and broke it, and gave it to them, saying, "This is my body given for you. Do this in remembrance of me."
A time of refreshing and communion. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 16.
Is not the cup of thanksgiving for which we give thanks a participation in the blood of Yahweh Mashiach? And is it not the bread that we break a participation in the body of Yahweh Mashiach?
You see, that this is after the day of Pentecost. This is in the New Testament. He's saying they're celebrating the Pesach, the Passover. And it's saying here the same thing, that the blood and the bread as a participation, a remembrance of Yahweh Messiah. It's a time for anticipation and recommitment. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 26, 28, and 29.
For whenever you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim Yahweh Mashiach's death until he comes. Everyone ought to examine themselves before they eat of the bread and drink from the cup. For those who eat and drink without discerning Mashiach's body eat and drink damnation on themselves. Okay, we see here that this is when we take the Passover, the blood and the bread, when we do communion. We're
what it says here is we're supposed to remember that what he has done. And we're supposed to repent and reflect on Yahweh Messiah and what he's done for us. And repent of any known or unknown sins. Because it says here that if we don't discern the body of Yahweh Messiah and eat and drink, we're going to eat and drink judgment on ourselves, on themselves. So we have to be careful when we do the Passover supper, that we do it in remembrance of Yahweh, and that we do it and we repent before taking the communion and the foot washing. Let's look at the comparisons here. Let's look at these two comparisons. Passover background. Exodus chapter 12, verses 1 and 2.
And Yahweh spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Okay, so we see here that this is a new year for the Israelites. It's a new beginning for the Israelites. He's telling them it's a new beginning for them. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17. Let's look at what the New Testament, how the New Testament compares to the Old Testament. Therefore, if any man be in Mashiach, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new. You see the comparison here? When we become new in Messiah, when we're baptized in Yahweh's name and filled with the Holy Spirit, and we're living a holy and righteous life, and we take of the Passover, we're believers, we're a new creature. When we're baptized, we're a new creature. All those old sins are washed away, and behold, all things are new. It's like starting a new life. We don't go back to childhood or being a baby, but we start afresh new with our thinking and our walk, because we're walking towards Yahweh. Let's look at another comparison here. Exodus chapter 12, verse 5. Your lamb should be without blemish, a male the first year. You should take it out from the sheep or from the goats. Okay, so we see here that the male had to be the lamb had to be a year, one of the first year. There were specific requirements for that lamb. It was to be taken in a home on the 10th of Nisan, which is one of the Hebrew months. It was closely inspected. It could not have any blemishes or anything on it. It had to be a perfect lamb. It could have no spots or no blemishes on it. If it was out without that, they would sacrifice it on the 14th day of Nisan. Now, what does the New Testament show? How does the New Testament compare to the Old Testament here? 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 19. But with the precious blood of Mashiach, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot. Now, doesn't that sound familiar? Doesn't that sound familiar? We're just looking in the Old Testament, in the book of Exodus, chapter 12, verse 5, that it had to be a perfect lamb. And this same scripture in 1 Peter 1:19 is talking about Yahweh Messiah having to be the perfect lamb without spot and without blemish. You see that the correlation here between the Passover and Messiah. Okay, now Yahweh Messiah was inspected by Pilate, Matthew chapter 27, verse 11. And Yahweh Mashiach stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, saying, Art thou the king of the Jews? And Yahweh Mashiach said unto him, Thou sayest. Okay, so he was brought before Pilate. He was also brought before Herod in Luke chapter 23, verses 8 through 12. And when Herod saw Yahweh Mashiach, he was exceeding glad, for he was desirous to see him a long season, because he had heard many things of him, and he had hoped to see some miracle done by him. Then he questioned with him in many words, but he answered him nothing. And the chief priests and the scribes stood and vehemently accused him. And Herod with his men of war set him at naught, and mocked him, and arrayed him in a gorgeous robe, and sent him again to Pilate. And the same day Pilate and Herod were made friends together, for before they were at enmity between themselves.
I've never noticed that before they said that. I've always never noticed that there. But he was brought before Herod, and Herod looked at him and wanted to see him. So we see he was inspected by Pilate and Herod. How about Annas in John chapter 18, verses 12 and 13?
And led him away to Annas first, for he was father-in-law to Caiaphas, which was a high priest that same year. Now Caiaphas was he which gave counsel to the Jews that it was expedient that one man should die for the people.
Interesting. One should die for the people. So he was brought to Annas, not Annas also. He was also brought to Caiaphas, Matthew chapter 26, verse 57.
And they that had laid hold on Yahweh Mashiach sent him away to Caiaphas the high priest, when the scribes and the elders were assembled.
Okay, so he was brought before Caiaphas. He was inspected, just like the lamb was inspected. And of course, they couldn't find no fault in Yahweh Messiah, because he's a lamb without blemish or defect. So we see the correlation here, how the lamb in the Old Testament had to be without spot and blemish and was examined, and so was Yahweh Messiah. Let's look at another one. Exodus chapter 12, verse 6.
And you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening.
Okay, so we see here that the whole community of Elohim's people was required to participate in the sacrifice. Everybody had to participate. What's Romans chapter 3, verse 21 through 26 say?
But now the righteousness of Elohim without the Torah is manifest, being witnessed by the law and the prophets, even the righteousness of Elohim which is by faith of Yahweh Mashiach unto all and upon all them that believe, for there is no difference. For all have sinned and come short of the glory of Elohim, being justified freely by his grace through the redemption that is in Mashiach Yahweh, whom Elohim has sent forth to be the propitiation through faith in his blood, to declare his righteousness for the remission of sins that are past through the forbearance of Elohim, to declare, I say, at this time his righteousness, that he might be just and the justifier of him that believeth in Yahweh Mashiach.
Okay, so we see here that not only in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament, when you accept Yahweh Messiah's sacrifice, it's required for all those who want to be part of Yahweh's community. It's required. Exodus chapter 12, verse 7, verses 12 and 22.
Okay, verse 7. And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper doorposts of the house, wherein they shall eat it. Verse 12. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt will I execute judgment. I am Yahweh. Verse 22. And ye shall take a bunch of hyssop, and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the two side posts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out at the door of his house until the morning.
Okay, so what's this mean in the New Testament? Let's look at what the New Testament said. John chapter 1, verse 29.
The next day John seeth Yahweh Mashiach coming unto him, and saith, Behold, the Lamb of Elohim, which taketh away the sin of the world.
You see, John was recognized who it was, that he was the Lamb of Elohim that was going to take away the sins of the world. John was given a revelation of just who Yahweh Messiah was going to be. You see, in the Old Testament, we're going to look at a picture in a few minutes of this, but they had to put the blood of that perfect lamb that they sacrificed on the doorpost, the left and right doorpost, and on the top of their door, so that the death angel, when he passed by, wouldn't take their firstborn. Anyone not found with the blood on their door, their firstborn male died. Exodus chapter 12, verse 14.
And this day shall be unto you for a memorial. You shall keep it a feast to Yahweh throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by ordinance forever.
Forever. Okay, so what does the New Testament say? We see that the Old Testament, he commands them that it's supposed to be done as a remembrance forever. What's the New Testament say in Luke chapter 22, verse 19?
And he took bread and gave thanks, and brake it, and gave unto them, saying, This is my body, which is given for you. This do in remembrance of me. Okay,
so we see here in the New Testament, he's saying to do this in remembrance of me. That's why we celebrate the Passover. Yahweh Messiah commanded us to do this, the Passover, the washing of feet and the seder, and the taking of the bread and the wine in remembrance of him. In remembrance of what? What he did for us. His blood and his body were sacrificed for us. Exodus chapter 12, verse 46.
In one house shall it be eaten, and thou shalt not carry forth aught of the flesh abroad out of the house, neither shall you break a bone thereof.
Okay, so in the Old Testament, not only were they not allowed to leave their house, but the lamb that they had, they were not allowed to leave the house with that lamb, nor were they allowed to break the bones of that lamb. Let's see the correlation in the New Testament for that. John chapter 19, verses 32 and 33.
Then came the soldiers, and brake the legs of the first, and of the other which was crucified with him. But when they came to Yahweh Mashiach and saw that he was dead already, they brake not his legs.
Wow, look at the correlation. Look at the correlation between the two. In the Old Testament, they weren't allowed to break the legs of the lamb. They were not allowed to break a bone of that lamb. And in the New Testament, they did not break the legs of Yahweh Messiah. Why would they break the legs? Because when they're crucified, they're on their legs. They have little legs there, and they put their feet on that ledge to help support themselves while they're there. But then when the soldiers come and they break their legs, that takes that pressure out from their legs so that they can't put pressure on it, and it makes them hang and they die faster. But they didn't do that to Messiah because they realized when they came to him, he was already dead. Which fulfills the Old Testament scripture here in Luke and Exodus chapter 12, verse 46. You see how all these New Testament scriptures fulfill the Passover scriptures in the Old Testament. Let's look at the celebration and the symbolism. We're actually going to right now get into the celebration of the Passover and what the symbolism is of the Passover. The first cup of Kiddush, which is sanctification. Now this is what the Israelites did. A lot of this is what they did. We might not go through all these steps, but this is what they did. Before the seder began, the dinner, traditionally a woman lit special candles to mark the commemorance of the sacred time. So the woman would light a candle. Okay? Another one. Immediately after this, the head of the table raised the first cup of wine, they call it a cup of sanctification, and blessed it. Okay, more. Now, according to Luke chapters 22, verses 17 and 18, would you like to read that, please?
After taking the cup, Mashiach gave thanks and said, "Take this and divide it among yourselves. For I tell you, I will not drink again of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of Yahweh comes."
Okay, so what's happening here is Messiah is saying, take of this cup, but he's not going to drink of this cup of wine. And that's the cup of sanctification still. Okay, first washing of the hands and the bitter herbs. Now you would hear that they have lamb and bitter herbs. What's the bitter herbs? As everyone got ready to partake of the Passover meal, the leader of the Passover washed his hands. Then the plate with salted water was passed around, into which everyone dipped a piece of lettuce or parsley. The salt was a reminder of the tears the Israelites shed during their bondage in Egypt, or the bondage in Egypt. You see, each one of these meant something. It's a symbolism of something in the Passover and the book of Exodus. The salt was a reminder of the tears. The green herb was a reminder of a new beginning. The number 8. The reminder of the new beginning. Because there was a new beginning for them. Messiah went further than the traditional hand washing. He taught his disciples humility by washing their feet. John chapter 13, verses 1 through 17.
Now before the feast of Passover, when Yahweh Mashiach knew his hour was come, that he should depart of this world unto the Father, having loved his own which were in the world, he loved them unto the end. And supper being ended, the devil having now put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him, Yahweh Mashiach knowing that the Father had given him all things into his hand, and that he was come from Elohim and went to Elohim, he rose from supper and laid aside his garments and took a towel and girded himself. After that he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel wherewith he was girded. Then cometh he to Simon Peter, and Peter said unto him, Adonai, dost thou wash my feet? Yahweh Mashiach answered and said unto him, What I do thou knowest not now, but thou shalt know hereafter. Peter saith unto him, Thou shalt never wash my feet. Yahweh Mashiach answered him, If I wash thee not, thou hast no part with me. Simon Peter saith unto him, Adonai, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head. Yahweh Mashiach saith to him, He that is washed needeth not save to wash his feet, but is clean every whit. And ye are clean, but not all. For he knew who should betray him, therefore he said, Ye are not all clean. So after he had washed their feet, he had taken his garments, and was set down again, and said unto them, Know ye what I have done to you? Ye call me Master and Adonai, and ye say, Well, for so I am. If I then, your Master and Adonai, have washed your feet, ye also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example, that ye should do as I have done to you. Verily, verily, I say unto you, the servant is not greater than his master, neither he that is sent greater than he that sent him. If you know these things, happy are you if you do them.
Okay, so we see here that Messiah took it a little bit further, a step further, and he wanted to teach his disciples humility. Because it's a humble thing when you get down and wash somebody's feet. I've done it. And my wife has also done it. It's a humiliating thing. It creates humility in you to wash a person's feet. But that's what Yahweh Messiah was showing his disciples. And he wants us to do it today. To wash one another's feet. during the remembrance of it, the Israelites' tears, Judas's betrayal was likely also a very bitter experience for Messiah. Mark chapter 14, verse 20.
And he answered and said unto them, It is one of the 12 that dippeth with me in the dish.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought there was more into that. Okay, so we see here that Messiah, he was showing the people, his disciples, who it was that was going to betray him. Of course, it doesn't give any indication that the disciples knew who it was. But it must have been a very bitter experience for Messiah. The Ephicomen. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly, but Ephicomen. The leader took 3 matzo breads and placed them in a special bag with 3 compartments. You can see the picture there on the right. Now, again, remember, these are traditions that the Israelites did or still do. We don't do them today, but they do. The middle matzah, called the Ephicomen, was broken and 1 piece placed back in the matzo bag. That's the one in the middle there on the right. The other pieces were hidden under a pillow. Today, children look for the hidden pieces. When a child finds a hidden piece, the leader of the celebration must rescue it by paying some money to the child, almost like a ransom. But he pays money to that child to get back that piece of matzo, the hidden piece. At the end of the meal, when the Passover seder is completed, the Ephicomen in the bag is revealed. Although the practice of the Ephicomen goes back to antiquity, it's likely that it originated after the Romans destroyed the Second Temple in AD 70. This is all talking about Messiah's Supper. As such, it probably was not practiced in Messiah's time. We come as children to Yahweh and we're rewarded when we find Him. Isn't that interesting? The children back here, when they find that piece, they get a little reward from the leader. And what do we get? We get a reward when we find Yahweh Messiah. Jewish believers who continue celebrating the Passover in a traditional way understand this practice to be symbolize importance of the believer's beliefs. Okay? The Ephicomen, the breaking of the second bread and hiding it under a pillow, symbolizes Messiah's sacrifice on the cross and His resurrection from the tomb. These are all just things that are symbolic, celebrations and symbolisms. The Ephicomen, the hiding of the Ephicomen for the duration of the seder represents Yahweh Messiah being hidden from our view for 3 days in the tomb. Today, the matzo breads are pierced and striped because of the way the bread is made. Have you ever seen a piece of matzo bread? It's pierced and striped. Many Jewish believers today understand the piercing and the stripes to be symbolize the piercing of Messiah on the cross and His flogging by the Roman soldiers. John chapter 19, verses 1 and 34.
Then Pilate therefore took Yahweh Mashiach and scourged him. Verse 34. But one of the soldiers with a spear pierced his side, and forthwith came there out blood and water.
Okay, the blood and water there is a story all in itself, a preaching or teaching all in itself. But the blood and water symbolizes and the doctors would say now that he died of a broken heart. Why? Because he knew not everybody would come to him. Okay, so we see that the Jewish believers, that the piercing and the stripes, the stripes and the piercing, it's the symbol. We see the symbolism of it. The second cup and the Haggadah. The leader took the second cup of wine, the cup of plagues, and blessed it. No one drank from it until the Haggadah, the telling, was finished. The telling of what? The telling of the Passover story. The Haggadah refers to the book used to explain the seder service. At this point, a child asks the 4 questions, and the leaders of the ceremony would tell the story of Elohim's redemption in Exodus with those 4 questions. Traditionally, the answers had to cover at least 3 elements of the Passover celebration: the Passover sacrifice, the bitter herbs, and the unleavened bread, which is the Matzo. The Haggadah includes these 4 questions. The question number 1. On all nights when we may eat either leavened or unleavened bread, but on this night only unleavened bread, why is this night different from the other nights? This is one of the 4 questions that the children would ask. The second question. On all other nights we eat all kinds of herbs, but on this night we eat bitter herbs. Why is this night different from all other nights? Third question. On all other nights we do not dip our vegetables, even one time. On this night we dip them twice in salt water and charset. Why is this night any different from all the other nights? And the fourth question. On all the other nights we eat either sitting or reclining, but on this night we eat only reclining. Why is this night any different from all the other nights? Those are the 4 questions that the children would ask, and then the leader would answer them. Okay, now in the gospel account of Yahweh's Supper, the words, "This is my body," are Messiah's reinterpretation of the Passover. You think it's just, he just spoke those words just to speak them? No, he was speaking the reinterpretation of the Passover in the Old Testament. At the Last Supper, the sacrificed lamb and the unleavened bread received greater meaning. What do they mean? Messiah is the Lamb of Elohim. John 1:29.
The next day John seeth Yahweh Mashiach coming unto him, and saying, Behold the Lamb of Elohim, which taketh away the sin of the world.
You see, we look at that and we say, well, if we just read that for the first time, we think, wow, he's calling him the Lamb of Elohim. What does that mean? But if you get into the depth of what that actually means, compared to the Old Testament scriptures of the Passover, you get a greater meaning and a greater interpretation of exactly what John was seeing. Messiah, okay, and he was sacrificed in our place. 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 17 through 21.
And if you call on the Father, who without respect of persons judges every man according to his works, pass the time when you're sojourning here in fear. Forasmuch as you know you were not redeemed with corruptible things, as silver and gold, from your vain conversations received by the tradition from your fathers, but with the precious blood of Mashiach, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot, who verily was foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was manifest now in these last times for you, who by him do believe in Elohim, that raised him from the dead and gave him glory, that your faith and hope might be in Elohim.
So we see here that Messiah is the Lamb of Elohim, and he was sacrificed in our place. He is the bread of life that comes down from heaven. It says that in John chapter 6, verses 33 through 35.
For the bread of Elohim is he which cometh down from heaven, and giveth his life unto the world. And they said unto him, Adonai, evermore give us this bread. And Yahweh Mashiach said unto them, I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst.
Okay, so in the scriptures, Messiah is saying, I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger. Now, what is he talking about? Is he talking of physical hunger? No, he's speaking of a spiritual hunger. That we're not going to spiritually hunger anymore, because we're going to know if we have a relationship with Yahweh, we're going to be filled with the blood and the mindset and the heart of Yahweh and Yahweh Messiah. The first part of the halal and the second cup. At the end of the Haggadah, the leader raised the second cup of wine and invited all to sing the first part of the halal, which is the recreation of Psalms 113 and 114. Of course, we're not going to read them. You can go back in at a later time and read Psalms 113 and 114. Recitation of them. Then everyone drank the second cup, the cup of plagues. The New Testament does not give a detailed account of Messiah's last actions, but rather focused on the new covenant. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 25.
After the same manner also he took the cup, when he had supped, saying, This cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye as oft as you drink it in remembrance of me.
Okay, so this was the focus on the new covenant and Messiah's sacrifice that was about to occur. He said, drink of this cup. Although they might have recited the first part of the halal and taken the second cup, it's not registered in the scriptures. Nowhere in scriptures do we see that part of it. That's not in there. Second hand washing in the Passover meal. All washed their hands once. Again. Then the leader took the matzo bread and broke them into pieces. That's a smaller picture there of the matzo. I should have gave a bigger picture of that, but you can see there on the matzo bread, if you ever seen it. The leader dipped the bread into a mixture of bitter herbs and distributed them to the participants. You see how they take part of the drinking of the bitter herbs, the bitter bondage. The meal was then taken. As was tradition in the celebration of the Passover, Messiah dipped a piece of bread. However, he used this moment to indicate who his betrayer would be. John chapter 13, verse 26.
Yahweh Mashiach answered, He it is to whom I shall give the sop when I have dipped it. And when he had dipped the sop, he gave it to Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon.
Okay, so we see here, he not only dipped it, but he used it to a little bit further and showing who was going to betray him. The grace after meals in the third cup. This is the third cup of wine. This is all talking about the seder. When the meal was finished, no one ate any other food. Instead, the leader of the celebration poured a third cup of wine. Everyone offered another blessing on the third cup of wine, called the cup of redemption. and drank from this cup. So each person took a sip or so of this third cup. After the meal, Messiah, let's look at the symbolism. After the meal, Messiah got up and took a matzah bread and said, "This is my body given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." Luke chapter 22, verse 19. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And he took bread and gave thanks, and brake it, and gave unto them, saying, "This is my body, which is given for you. This do in remembrance of me."
Okay, so we see here that he dipped the matzah bread and gave it to his disciples. He wanted them to do it in remembrance of him, to remember his sacrifice for us. Then he continued with the third cup, blessed it, and said, what's he say in 1 Corinthians 11:25?
After the same manner also he took the cup when he had supped, saying, "This cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye as often as you drink it in remembrance of me."
Okay, so again, in the 1 Corinthians 11:25, he's showing to do this in remembrance of me. So the third cup of wine. Now there's a fourth cup of wine. It's still talking about the second part of the halal, and now we're up to the fourth cup of wine. Once everybody drank the third cup, they recited the second part of the halal, which was praise, which consisted of Psalms 115 through 118. And again, you can go back later on and read those chapters to see what exactly that they said, if you're not familiar with them. No one drank wine between the third cup and the end of the second part of the halal. No one drank any wine during that time. At the end of the singing, they drank the fourth cup of wine, called the cup of praise. And you probably would be able to see that in Psalms 115 through 118. So they drank a fourth cup of wine, called the cup of praise. Then the seder ended. The seder meal ended. Messiah and the disciples finished the Yahweh, his supper, and Matthew tells us, what does Matthew tell us? Matthew 26, verse 30.
And when they had summoned him, they went out into the Mount of Olives. Okay,
so we see here, after it was all done, they sung a hymn, just like they did in symbolism. The hymn was probably the halal. We don't know that for certain, but it was that's what it probably was. That's what they probably were singing. The fourth cup of wine was not drunk. Matthew 26:29. What's that say?
"But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth this fruit of the vine, until the day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom."
So look at that. The first cup was drank, the second cup, the third cup, but that fourth cup was not drank. And what it goes right along the symbolism of what Messiah did. He said he's not going to drink of that fourth cup. The last cup of the Passover will be drunk at the wedding feast of the Lamb. Let's look at that in Revelation chapter 19, verse 9.
"And the angel said unto John, Write this, Blessed are those who are invited to the wedding supper of the Lamb. And he added, These are the true words of Elohim."
Okay, so we see in the last days, there's going to be a wedding supper of the Lamb. And we're going to be, all those that go are going to be blessed.
Yahweh's Learning Channel thanks you for watching this video. We hope you were edified by this content. Reach out to us with the information provided on screen, or you may click on the links to view more of our videos. Please subscribe to be notified of new uploads. Until next time, Shalom.